Welcome back, Giants fans. So today we're going to talk about two free agents coming up this offseason, coming from the Buffalo Bills organization. I'm sure you guys know which ones I'm talking about, at least one of them from the thumbnail. But anyway, we're going to talk about them because they have ties to Brian Dabol, the current Giants head coach, and the Giants' current GM, Joe Schoen. Now, I've also received some questions about my thoughts on the Brian Flores situation. For those not familiar, Brian Flores is suing the NFL and the Giants for alleged racism in the hiring process. So for something like this, I want to see more details before giving an actual opinion. Right now, just more stuff is leaking out today, so I don't want to say one thing and have something else come out and make me look bad, obviously. So obviously, it's going to be a terrible thing if it's true. Hopefully, it's not. But anyway, we'll talk about that in a future day if it's worth mentioning. Hopefully, you guys enjoy this video, and let's get into it. So the two players we're going to talk about from the Bills organization, one is Mitchell Trubisky, quarterback, former second overall pick, and the other being kick returner / sometimes punt returner / wide receiver / running back / whatever the hell they want him to do, Isaiah McKenzie, who's going to be a free agent along with Trubisky this offseason. So both guys have ties to Brian Dabol. There are some awesome quotes about the relationship between Isaiah McKenzie, Brian Dabol, and some more quotes about the Mitch Trubisky signing really being pushed for by Brian Dabol himself. So I do believe both of these guys have a chance, at least one of them, to be future New York Giants, so I feel like it's worth talking about. So we'll start with Mitchell Trubisky. So this all stems from a tweet from Chris Emma, who covers the Chicago Bears, and of course, Mitch Trubisky was drafted by Chicago, spent 4 years there. He's familiar with Mitch Trubisky. He went on to say here in August 2021, Bills offensive coordinator Brian Dabol, who should be getting a head coaching job in January, he did, good call there, was a strong advocate behind bringing in Mitchell Trubisky to Buffalo. Dabol set up Trubisky with a tempo offense and has allowed him to prove himself back in Chicago. So we as Giants fans have recognized that Daniel Jones either may not be the answer and has injury concerns. We'll put it that way, right? Injury concerns. So we've realized that signing a guy like, or trading for a guy like a Jimmy Garoppolo or signing a guy like a Teddy Bridgewater may not be the move. I may get behind it personally, but it depends how much they cost and all that crap. But the most logical thing to do for the Giants is bring in a backup quarterback that is near Daniel Jones and can at least push him and make him earn the starting job. And if Daniel Jones does earn that job and gets injured, you have a competent backup quarterback not named Jake Fromm or Mike Glennon. So bringing in Mitch Trubisky for the Giants makes a lot of sense on multiple levels. And Trubisky, I mean, look, he hasn't had the best career, especially for a second overall pick, but he's had success in this league before. He's been in the playoffs twice. There is some upside here, and he also can use his legs like Daniel Jones does. Daniel is faster than Mitch Trubisky, but Trubisky's kind of better at being shifty and kind of maneuvering the pocket at certain points. So there's good and bad things about each quarterback, but I think a guy like Trubisky to come in and back up or either compete with Daniel Jones, that's not a bad idea. This is the same Mitch Trubisky that back in 2018, which it wasn't crazy long ago, a few years ago, but his team went 11-3 when he started. He had a 66 completion percentage, over 3,200 passing yards, 24 passing touchdowns, and 12 interceptions. Kind of similar to the year that Daniel Jones had as a rookie with the Giants, just not as many turnovers. So Mitch has had success in the NFL before. It just looks bad because he's taken in front of Patrick Mahomes, taken in front of Deshaun Watson. He has not lived up to the quote-unquote franchise quarterback label, but Mitch Trubisky has proven he can be a bottom-tier starter and a high-end backup. So if the Giants can get Mitch on a 1 or 2 year deal, pay him a few $1 million per year, it should be a good investment for the reason of Daniel Jones getting injured every single year so far. And number two, if Daniel Jones is ineffective, you have at least a competent backup quarterback that you can put in there and still compete. Now, Trubisky only has 8 pass attempts in real games in Brian Dabol's offense, but at least he knows the offense already. He's already ahead of Daniel Jones in that regard of knowing Brian Dabol's offense. So there's no learning curve. Let's say the Giants signed another backup quarterback like a Marcus Mariota for instance. He doesn't know Brian Dabol's playbook. At least with Mitch Trubisky, he knows the terminology, knows the playbook. He can help Daniel Jones himself when he needs to, assuming that Mitch Trubisky is a good teammate, which I think he is. I haven't heard anything bad about him, but it's going to help in that regard as well. So Trubisky does not excite me. It doesn't make me feel like we might have an answer at quarterback, no, but at least he gives us that competent backup quarterback. We just watched like 6 games of Mike Glennon. We knew how bad that was, right? So getting a Mitch Trubisky is an upgrade at the backup quarterback position. It doesn't solve your questions at the quarterback position, but it will help for now in the short term. Now, as for Isaiah McKenzie, we'll go over him real quick. Let's go over his stats just so you guys know what type of player he is. So on punts in 2021, he had 19 returns, 7.7 yards per return, and 2 returns over 20 yards. On kickoffs, he averaged 24.3 yards per return on 24 attempts, which is like average, not that great, but it's average. And McKenzie, receiving-wise, had 20 receptions, 178 yards, a touchdown on 26 targets, 8.9 yards per reception. And it's impressive to have 8.9 yards per reception because some of his receptions are behind the line of scrimmage. So to get that many yards per reception, that's impressive in itself. Now in the rushing game, he had 9 carries for 47 yards and a rushing touchdown. That's 5.2 yards per attempt. So personally, I'm looking forward to Isaiah McKenzie potentially going to the Giants and being that gadget guy and seeing how Brian Dabol can use him. I'm sure he would use him in similar ways he did in Buffalo, but Isaiah McKenzie has that ability in a blink of an eye to change an entire game. We've seen that with the Giants before. 2018 Saquon, Odell Beckham his first few years, guys that can just change a game with one single play. And Isaiah McKenzie has that speed to be that guy. No, he's not Odell, no, he's not Saquon level of player, but he has that speed and has that home run ability to change an entire game in one play. So what happened this year was Isaiah McKenzie had a fumble on a kickoff return against the Colts in November. McKenzie got benched for a little bit, and Brian Dabol was always the guy to go up to McKenzie and tell him to keep his head up, and these two have formed such a great relationship that I pretty much almost think it's a guarantee now that McKenzie wants to play for Brian Dabol next season, but we'll see what happens there, of course. Anyway, there's some quotes here from an article written by Matt Perino on Syracuse.com. It's titled, 6 weeks ago, Isaiah McKenzie was warming the Bills bench. He returned as a star with Brian Dabol to thank for it. So we'll go over some of the quotes in this article, talk about how close these guys are. When McKenzie was benched, Dabol walked up to him and made sure the young receiver had the right attitude. He was the first guy to come over to me. He said to keep the confidence high. I still believe in you and you're going to get your chance. He gave me that confidence like when it's my turn, I'll be ready, McKenzie said. Thanks to him, he also gave me the opportunity when it was my turn and I appreciate him for that. He's an amazing guy and the feeling is mutual. Now here's another quote from McKenzie. This was after he had a good game. So this is, that was from the bad game, now from the good game. Dabes, I guess he calls him Dabes for a nickname. Dabes is running down towards me in the locker room with the biggest smile on his face, like jumping, knees up, McKenzie explained. I'm like, damn boy, what's up with you? He hugged me and he slapped my hand and he hugged me. I love you and I'm proud of you. Dabol had a good reason to feel so proud. So those were good quotes about the Dabol-McKenzie relationship in itself, but this was the best one right here. It's a couple paragraphs, not really paragraphs, but I'll just read it anyway because this really explains how close these guys are. McKenzie remembers that first season in Buffalo and Dabol's immediate interest in him. The 46-year-old coach talked to McKenzie every day and helped keep him up, quote unquote, as he was grinding, trying to earn a spot. One day, Dabol saw McKenzie alone in the locker room and invited him over his house. So this was a quote from McKenzie. We'd eat barbecue and the sun's out and we're outside having fun and he'd have his shirt off and that's a sight to see. McKenzie said laughing. He's like, eat whatever you want, and you can come over whenever you want. I didn't know him that well or that he was that cool of a coach, inviting us over and stuff. I was just getting to know him. But as time went on, I kept going over there and eating food, and he would take me in like a son. He was a coach, but he treated me like a son, and I appreciate him for that. So, I mean, that's it right there. Like, that is a special relationship from player to coach. McKenzie was a guy pretty much on the roster bubble at that time, and for Brian Dabol to do what he did, pretty much welcome McKenzie into his house and just be like, yeah, come over, have food whenever you want. I mean, it's a pretty special relationship. So I would like to believe, based on this, unless McKenzie loves Buffalo, that he want to follow Brian Dabol and be a part of the Giants, but that is a wait and see, of course. So that's pretty much it for this video. I just wanted to read those, tweets and quotes about the relationship that Brian Dabol had with these guys. Of course, Joe Shane knows these guys as well, having been their assistant GM back in Buffalo. So let me know in the comments, do you guys want Mitch Trubisky? Do you want Isaiah McKenzie? Let me know. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video, and I will talk to you guys next time.